Hello everyone. Today we're going to break down the structure of the atom, one of the most important things to understand in chemistry. And once you know how atoms are built, everything else in chemistry starts to make sense. What is an atom? An atom is, if we were to write it out, an atom is the smallest unit of matter, also the building block of everything around us. And I think it's really important to keep everything in mind. Everything is made of atoms. There is nothing that is not made of atoms. So let's put that as a side note. Let's just keep that while we continue on. So let's talk about how an atom is arranged. So we can start with, let's start with our nucleus. So in the nucleus, also known as the middle of the atom, we have small, you could kind of think of them as bubbles. You could think of them as tiny bubbles, right? Now let's just make a key that these mean protons and these mean neutrons. Alright, so let's have a look. So protons and neutrons are only found in the nucleus. So these are only found in the nucleus. A proton has a positive charge, while a neutron has no charge. So it is neither positive or negative. Now, we don't only have protons and neutrons in an atom. We also have an outer shell, which is known as, so that would be the shell, and then on that we'd have electrons. Now let's put that in our key. Electrons. Now these electrons have a negative charge. Now usually atoms want to be stable, so they'll have the same number of protons and electrons in an atom. Now of course there are circumstances in which atoms do not have the same number of protons and neutrons, and they're unstable, so they're not safe, and they'll try to find other atoms to pair with, to form a bond with. So protons and neutrons are packed in the middle, here, and electrons orbit around them in these type of, you could say, a shell. And there doesn't only have to be one shell, there can be multiple shells. So this just gets bigger and bigger. Now, keep in mind that the more electrons, protons, and neutrons an atom has, the heavier it gets. Now let's talk about the atomic mass number. So you may have looked at a periodic table. Let's take, for example, hydrogen. You may have seen that it's written as 1 and 1. Let's break down what that really is. So this top one, so this one up here, is known as the atomic number. Okay, that is the number of protons. So I'm just going to bring this here. And so that is the number of protons. Now down at the bottom, we have the mass number, which is the protons plus the neutrons. The atomic number tells you how many protons it has, as I wrote here. And the mass number is how many protons and electrons it has. Now, what it also tells you, in a way, if it's a stable element, then we can also find out the number of protons, as if it's stable, then it'll have the same number of protons and electrons, because it always wants to be stable. So to do this, let's say we have one proton here, in the case of hydrogen, we'd also have one electron. Now let's take another example here. Let me just move my whiteboard. Let's take another example here. Let's take oxygen, for example. Oxygen is 8 and 16. Now, from this, if we have a look back up here, we have, so this would be the number of protons up here. So let's go back down. Let's have a look. So this would have 8 protons. You can also think of this like maths. So you could go on as having 8 charge right now. And the mass number is the protons plus electrons. So this would be 16 minus 8, because we already know we have 8 protons. So that would give us 8 electrons. So let's try to kind of draw it up as we go along. So let's start with our nucleus. So we would have 8 protons. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we'd have 8 electrons. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, because this is a stable atom, we can also look at this as having 8 electrons. Now let's get back to our maths here. We can also think of this as up here. An electron has a -1 charge and protons are +1. So that's how we got this 8 here. Now we can do 8 plus -8, which is just 0. So the charge of this atom would be 0. It is a stable atom. Now let's draw out our 8 electrons. So let's make a shell. I'm just picking white for the shell. This is not a proton. And let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's your 8 electrons. And that is the basic configuration of an atom. Next video we can have a look at Bohr's model and go deeper into this. Thank you.